New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to Rockin the Love. My name is Gil, and this chair is for Robin. When she returns, she had to step out for a moment. And we are excited to be with you today on New Thought Media Network. We're talking about This Land is My Land. And we'll chat about what that looks like later on.
This land is your land. This land is mine.
Okay, this land is your land. Who knows what I wrote in the thing, but that's okay. We are happy you're here. We are going to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about what's going on and share some good news with you, etc. before we get into our topic of the week. Please remember to like us, to go to the Facebook website, any of that stuff, and click your admiration for us, as that helps us make things stream out easier and better.
It does. It does. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And even though we can't see all of you out there, we know you're out there. So big love to all of you, like Alvin and Louise and
our stealth listeners.
Our stealth listeners that we love, love, love. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And let's just start with our week. How's your week? You know, I was thinking about this because last week we talked about our week is, we usually do the same thing now that we're together. And we talk about this, but sometimes we have so much going on said separate. I think we can still do it.
Sometimes we can just remind each other about what we actually did.
This is true. So we can keep track of each other.
Yeah. Really. So we had, I've had a good week. Very busy, very intense. A lot of feelings up and down, back and forth, and a lot of gratitude. Then a lot of gratitude ultimately. And I'm excited to continue moving forward in the process of growing. So that's where I am with my week.
Wow, that's very deep.
It is deep, isn't it?
You're a deep man. I've had a great week. All my sports teams are winning, and I am very happy. I'm a proud Dodger girl. Dodger girl and Brewer girl. And don't ask me what'll happen when they get together. I figure it's just I can't lose. I do have a preference, but I still can't lose either way. I'll be happy. So. Sports-wise, it's been a great week. World-wise, to be able to say it was a great week. So many things are going on. Just a lot of energy and a lot of things going on. And, you know, it's so interesting because so many people's fears and thoughts and worries and concerns are coming up around everything that goes on. So
Yes, there is just a lot of things that I go, what? And my prayer is that all of us watch and pay attention and step into what is ours to do around any of this. Because I want to ignore it, and that's not helpful. And I don't want to get in the middle of it and become angry. That's not going to be helpful. So just becoming more aware of how I can show up, And
well, which to me, and I know we're going to get into this, but this may not be your take on this, but which to me has a lot to do with the topic. So we'll talk more about that as we go on. But first, it's time for the good news. And I just want to say that our producer is gone today. So Gil is the producer, and he's acting like he has nothing to do. But now is when the producer would put up, and now the good news.
there you go. We just did it. See how good that was? Didn't even need me to do it. Oh my goodness. So my good news today, which I'm not finding, but that's okay. I can fake it. My good news is about a dog in Portugal. And the word went out, an advertisement or something from the shelter, that it had 2 days to live because it'd been there too long and they needed to make space, as some shelters do. So a woman in England saw the ad and she called them up and she paid for the dog to, get out of doggy jail. And thinking that someone would then adopt the dog, knowing that they didn't have to pay all the $200, etc. No one did. No one came forth to adopt the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So she traveled to Portugal to get the dog. And now, after some time, in working with the dog, this dog is finding lost animals. They give it a little something to smell, and it goes off, and it has successfully found multiple pets who were lost, and different animals. An animal that was lost from the zoo.
Wow.
And it's quite amazing. And it's a scruffy looking little dog who's really cute. And it's actually now they're working with him to train other dogs to do the same thing. So
Amazing. How did they figure this out? I mean, what was the...
I don't know exactly. I think it had to do with, the dog they would give the dog stuff and it would immediately go and find that person and things like that. It would just immediately react to the smell of whatever they were given, and it would follow up on it. So they translated that into literally utilizing it. We all know dogs have an incredible sense of smell and that they can be trained to do things like that. But it's just kind of funny, this dog that came from the shelter, and here he is being a big savior dog for everybody. So that's my good news for today.
That's very good news. Well, my story is about a man in I believe it's Switzerland or Sweden. I don't have my story in front of me either. And he, one sunny day while he was waiting for the train, he thought, he had this idea, why not use the untapped space in between the train tracks to be a space for... Bless you. That was a sneeze. In case you don't know, he's a master at holding them in. So anyway, he had used the unused space for solar power. And so 5 years down the road, his company that he started, a company called Sunways, and they are using this innovation to successfully install solar panels on the tracks in this village in western Switzerland called Butte, and it's working perfectly. And they install it just like they would on a house, like solar panels, and it's incredible. And Japan and all these other countries want to do things with it now. So it's an active use of solar, creating solar power, and it can be picked up and taken away as well. So, and you can still use the train tracks.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I wonder how much of the train can be powered by the solar that they're collecting.
Well, any way you look at it, it's just a sign that solar power and trains can coexist, because everybody's got a story about, trains and how they run and all of that. And so it's a giant step in the energy field.
At least it's not a windmill. Moving on. What else are we talking about today?
We just said that.
We did. So do you want to say any more about it?
No.
Want to say any more about our good news?
No.
Do you want to come back after an announcement from our lovely New Thought Media sponsors?
I do.
That's good.
I do. They're all if you've been seeing the meetings, announcements, commercials, they're all in Kansas at Unity Village for a big event, with all different New Thought people, including our beloved Ricky Byers Beckwith, who's doing the music for the event. And they're all talking about the future of New Thought and how we can make it work together. So I'm sure our producer, Michael Mangus, as well as Robert Brzezinski and all on New Thought Media Network, will come back with some very exciting and innovative news. But before that, we are going to go to a commercial, and then we'll come back and talk about this land is your land, this land is my land. What does that mean? See you in a minute, right back here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Hello, we are back. Even though I'm out of frame, we are back. And that's what matters. I'm Robin.
And I'm Gil, and we are your hosts for Rockin the Love.
Yeah.
We've been doing this a while, and we enjoy it. So that's why we're here.
What he said. Anyway, enough of this silliness. This show is truly about rocking the love and how you, in every situation, that's really what we need to be doing is rocking the love. Because the truth is, the only answer is love. So sometimes that feels a little undoable. And that's our challenge, right? That's our growth. So let's get to it. So this show is about This Land is Your Land. And we came up with this because it's a topic on the CSL Centers for Spiritual Living.
Themes of the month.
Themes of the month. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, coming up on next Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day. And it took us somewhere, I know, at least over 100 years before we could transfer Columbus Day into that. And it's a shift in attitude for the country. It's a symbolic shift from celebrating the conqueror to celebrating the people who were here. And I think that's really interesting. So what I've been thinking about is how, how in general Indigenous people had such a close relationship to the land, and how our relationship with the land and nature and all of that, how does that affect our relationship with other people? What does it indicate something about how we have relationships? Does it help us to have relationships by being more in tune with nature? Just have some questions like that going on in my head. What are you thinking about?
I'm listening to what you're saying.
Okay. So that's where I wanted to go. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. So you're going to help me out. I'm not sorry. So when you say that, I mean, I'm still back on Indigenous People Day because that's where I'm still at.
Okay. So, my point being that we have a lot we can learn from other cultures and from those who preceded us here, those who are still with us, but who in large number preceded us here. And how do we relate to the earth and nature, and also translate that into how we're relating better with each other and with other cultures and all of that.
Right. Well, so what comes up for me is, I mean, the reason that the title is This Land is Your Land, This Land is My Land for me is because I don't feel as if that is honored in its totality.
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm not sure that it is. And that's one of the things that, that I'm talking about is, so if we have a negative relationship, if we are not honoring the land, does that then make us not honoring other people? Does that literally, not only from that standpoint, but does it affect how we honor other people when we have interactions with them? Because we don't honor what they honor.
Well, so I would ask, I mean, do you feel like people truly honor the land or the space?
I don't think I do enough. I mean, I don't think that I really, I love nature. I love to do things outside. I love all that stuff. But I don't know that I really allow myself to celebrate it, to have gratitude for it, to to really look at how all the things that I do impacts it, because some of them I would just rather not have the energy and time invested in changing what I do in order to impact the earth, the land differently.
Well, I think that, so I would start us out with Centers for Spiritual Living's motto is creating a world that works for everyone.
And everything.
Can
I'm sorry, I was just helping.
So Centers for Spiritual Living's motto is creating a world that works for everyone. And some people say creating a world that works for all, meaning all, the animals, the plants, the mountains, the dirt, the earth, And so in really taking that on, it is an exploration of, how do I interact with everything? And I think about how mad, I used to get, and my friends used to get, when somebody threw something out of the car window or, litters on the ground and doesn't even look back. Things like that. And I know that there's more than that, like you said, in terms of you're not having a relationship with as big as much as you could. So how is it do you, I think it's part of what needs to change in the whole thing. It's not just, right now we're so focused on everything that's going on publicly and in our government and in governments and in our up close world. It's hard to, or, it may be secondary to look at the land, so to speak, and yet it's urgent.
It's not only urgent, it is one of the largest, I believe, areas that is being, what's the word I want? It's being plundered right now. It's a complete shift in attitude to tear down our rules about cars and emissions and smog, to let manufacturers evaluate their own emissions, to actively seek out drilling and fracking as much as possible, so that we can not only make the money from doing it and cause the damage from doing it, but we can sell it so that someone can use it so that we can cause more damage. We're also actively speaking out against things that don't cause the same kind of damage. And not that everything is without its issues. Every particular technology has some things about it that aren't perfect, and there's fallout from that, if you will. So I'm not suggesting that there's a magic button, but when we don't even work, when we stop working with the things that we know are headed in that direction, and through preference for the other because of money, then that to me means we have shifted our whole understanding.
Well, yeah, and I think what you're speaking to is that it's more of an awareness on some level. That's always the first step, right? Is that we have to become aware, and by becoming aware, you then make your choices. And I think about the people we know, some of our friends that have stopped flying because of the
amount of emissions that comes out of an airplane per mile per human, that's on the plane, that it's pretty polluting,
And so they vowed not to fly. And, just different things that people have vowed not to do or taken up as their cause, so to speak.
And all of it is just a small thing that we do that does shift our relationship. It shifts our own attitude, et cetera, toward the planet, for sure. But it also changes some things. just the fact that as a country, at least not as a country, but as leadership in the country has decided that there is nothing that humans are doing that is damaging the earth. I mean, there is no global warming. That's a hoax. There's none of those kinds of things. All it really does is give full permission to not care about the land, which is basically how we showed up in this country. You know, how this country was founded was by people who had no respect for what existed. You know, and that extended to having no respect for where other people existed and what their thing was like, because we were willing to grab people and bring them here forcibly so that they could work for us to do what we wanted to do. You know, I'm speaking in the we as if I was there, which I wasn't, but you know, that kind of concept.
Well, it's a general concept.
Yeah.
I mean, that we could apply to a lot of things. We could apply it to, you know, big business contractors, you know, moving neighborhoods out, you know, all those things.
Right. Or neighborhoods that have been totally polluted that big business and other people argued were fine until finally somebody got something released that had been known for several years and went, oh, it really is bad. Oh, I guess we should do something. But it costs money. They're not going to make the same amount of money. It's not, you know, and that's unfortunately what we are taught in our society and how society is set up, is that the object is to make money. You know, and we have big companies running health insurance, and their job is not to take care of people. Their job is to make sure their shareholders get paid.
Right.
You know, which is in total contrary to taking care of the health and well-being of people. Mm-hmm. Because to do it right, to do it proactively, to do all those things may just require some investment. Right?
Right. Well, thank God we here at New Thought Media Network are not tied into that making money thing. I say that lovingly, as this is truly a labor of love for all of us, which is why we appreciate your donations so much, because they help us to do good work in the world. But it's nobody's paid. We're just here because we want to share our message and do what we feel is right in the world. So,
well, I think it's interesting, this whole, you know, talking about corporations, et cetera, but you know, this country has gone through the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs of big business and money flowing to the rich and all of that has you know, pushed the haves and the have-nots farther apart. And then there's been a lot of changes, et cetera, and it's come back together, and there's been more respect for the environment. I just read an article today about a lake in Michigan that was dead, and tons and tons and tons of stuff were pulled out of it. It took 40 years to clean that lake up to where it was no longer on the list of lakes. And now it's used for recreation. You know, talk about how much it cost, which was millions and millions of dollars. And yet, if you look at what's shifted, they're actually on their way to making money, because now they have tourism. Now they have other things happening there that couldn't happen before.
right.
You know, and nobody wanted to come to it. You know, so anyway, there is this up and down. And so sometimes I think it's hard to see the possibility of where we can go when we're kind of what feels like one of those down places. You know, it feels like, you know, the courts have decided that corporations are people, so now they can donate to campaigns, which means they're not only doing lobbyists, but they're literally buying out our people, our politicians, who then agree to take the money because it's money. And, you know, it's an interesting.
And it's not in a paper bag.
Well, it doesn't have to be in a paper bag this way. However, when that doesn't work, they still work with paper bags.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So just going back to the title, "This land is your land, this land is my land." It also brings up the question for me of like, um, not only my land, you know, because my ancestors, they came here, were from Ireland, were from, Mexico, were from Switzerland, you know, so whose land? It's our land, right? And it's sometimes a little painful, because to see the injustices that are going on.
Yeah, and even that, begs the question: how did it become our land? Since there were already people here who had the land, if you will. And I think obviously there was a lot of taking, but there was also an attitude of, at least in some places, attitudes of real sharing the land, because there wasn't this sense that anyone could really own the land.
Mm.
It was a belief that it really was our land.
Right.
And so when other people showed up, there was this possibility that maybe everyone could coexist on this land. Unfortunately, many of those who came didn't have the same thought. So, they came from the culture where I have my land and I have a fence around it, and that's mine. You don't even go there.
Well, and I have my land and I want your land.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that's obviously still a mentality that's going on.
Right. Right. And it's, and we all drive it to some degree. We all want something new. We want a nice house. We want a car. We want, things. And so to get things, I need money. And so I need to get money from, all that stuff curls together and functions together. Now, are we aware? Do we step back and so what's the term we heard this week? Goal oriented. The idea when somebody may be so focused on a goal that it doesn't matter how they get there, and that's the part of this whole understanding of our land, this understanding of pollution, this understanding of making money that doesn't work, because people they aren't supported by any kind of moral internal guardrails if they're only seeing the goal, which is to make money.
Right.
Which is to get something now, whether or not their kids or grandkids will be able to use it since it'll be used up, kind of thing. All those kinds of pieces.
So what's this? What's the answer? What's the solution?
Oh, there's no answer.
There's always an answer. There's always an answer.
There's always an answer. Well, I think the answer is not. It can't. I can't. Which is where I want to go. Is I want to make sure that all those people that are doing it wrong get told and they learn how to do it right. The reality is that's not going to do anything, because I have to start it here as much as I can. I have to be more aware of what's going on. I have to be more willing to interact with people that I don't agree with. I have to be more cognizant of where I have been guilty of whatever the situation is around it. And
that was like three things that were really good. So start with one. So you have to become more
cognizant of where I am responsible for acting in those ways, if you will, or participating in them at some level. I mean, if something is exploiting the environment to be manufactured, so that they can do it cheaper, and the way to do it cheaper is to dump the waste, or whatever that is, then perhaps my looking for the lowest price on Amazon only adds to the fuel of people trying to find a way to get the lowest price, because they can't sell their products unless they get them to be competitive with others who may be in places where regulations don't exist, or maybe lobbying to get regulations removed from our country and others.
Oh, it's it just it's too much, because then you start thinking about that, like getting the lowest price on Amazon, and then my head goes into Amazon and their carbon footprint.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a slippery slope. So like, what do? You sit home and garden, grow your food and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, how? So I get that you have to have balance and figure it out, and that's a lot, though.
Mm-hmm. It is a lot. It's a lot, and I think somehow we have to find ways to be gentle with ourselves as we discover things in ourselves that are incongruent with what we're saying we believe, or what we're saying we think is right. We also have to consider, where are we willing to give up whatever it is, the money, the item, whatever. Where are we willing to set that aside for the sake of, right? When are we willing to step into a situation where a bunch of other people don't agree with us about something, and actually speak what we believe to be the truth around it and how it's affecting our world? I don't want to be that. That's scary.
It is scary.
Right?
It can be scary, but I mean, that's not as scary to me as just trying to figure it out. I mean, once I figure it out, I don't have a big challenge standing up for it or doing it. But yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm thinking that we should go to another break.
You do?
I'm thinking that.
Okay.
And I know.
I'm putting on my glasses so I can see, so I can do the break. Because I am the producer today, everybody. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh my goodness.
So we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back here, and we're going to finish up this conversation. And if you have anything to say, please put it in the chat, because we'd love to hear your thoughts and your ideas as well. Okay? So come right back here to New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment, and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Well, hello there. This is Dr. Sydney Steen. I am the senior minister and spiritual leader of the North Hollywood Church of Religious Science. We are a oneness center for spiritual living. And I just want to invite you to something that I think is really, really special. In October, from the 6th to the 10th, at Unity Village in Lee Summit, Missouri, the affiliated New Thought Network will be hosting the most wonderful retreat. This will serve your soul. It will lift your heart. And oh my goodness, I want to call it an advance. So come hear wonderful speakers like Martha Creek, Sonny Cantrell, and the music will be Off the Hook with Ricky Byers. There will be so much there to support your soul. I hope that you will join us. You can go to antn.org. That's antn.org. You can get all the information. You can sign up. You can use a credit card, and it is safe and secure, and I hope to see you there. Have a blessed day.
Hello, welcome back to Rockin the Love. I am Gil, and I am here minus my lovely spouse, Robin, for the moment. And I just played that commercial for you about Anton, the affiliated New Thought Network, because Robin had mentioned earlier in the show that that's where several people from New Thought Media were there producing that event on video and to be broadcast. And just thought I'd throw in the ad. You have some idea of what we were talking about. So they are meeting as we speak this week. It's rather exciting. Having been to Unity Village not very long ago this year, I can say it's a beautiful place. Never had been, never really knew what it was about, but certainly enjoyed it and found it to be quite wonderful. So we've been talking about this land is your land. This land is my land. And you know, obviously the title came from thinking about the song, which is a Woody Guthrie tune from many years ago in the 40s, I think. But I've also learned some very interesting pieces about that. As many of you probably know, Woody Guthrie was a bit of an activist, a folk singer who was, you know, speaking truth to power, if you will, in that particular way. And when he wrote the song, he originally wrote 6 verses apparently, and his first time he introduced it on his radio show, he dropped 2 of them, and then when it was recorded the first time, I believe he added one of them back in but dropped the last one. And most people that have recorded it with just the 4 verses, and they exclude the 4th and the 6th because those 2 verses talk about the inequity, the inequality, the pain that existed in our country and at the time. And I learned that he actually wrote it in response to God Bless America, which Irving Berlin had written. And he'd written it in World War I, but it became popular again as we were moving into World War II and all of that. But, you know, he was a Jew from, I don't remember which country. And at any rate, he had immigrated here, and God Bless America was his testament to how wonderful he found this country to be and what it was about living in America. And Woody Guthrie thought that was great, but he didn't feel like it really told the full story, which is why he wrote This Land Is Your Land. This land is my land. So at any rate, if you want to find out, you know, some interesting stuff about that, go ahead and look it up. It's kind of interesting, and the verses are quite telling. But that's part of what sparked all of this thinking about, you know, how do we respect, and how does it affect how we respect one another? How does it affect how we are in relationship with others when we are, you know, by the ways we are in relationship with one another. I mean, with the land, with our earth, with what we're doing in the country. So we walk through this world, and often we don't realize, I think, in my opinion, we do not realize how much the way we act in one area affects another area. And I think the reality is, what we don't realize is that the way you act in one place is how you act in another. Robin and I did a lot of work with couples, and one of the things we talked about in terms of weddings was the way you do your wedding is the way you'll do your marriage. And the reason we said that is because so often there's this very old model which gets placed into that situation. Part of it being that the wedding is the bride's day. Well, the reason for the wedding being the bride's day is because the bride was property and that was the only day she got. So that sets up a whole thing about, oh, it's the bride's day, let the bride do everything. The other thing it sets up is you have another partner or a groom who's not doing anything because they're letting it happen. Well, if that's how the whole organization of your wedding goes off, then when you walk into your marriage, what's it going to be like? It's either going to be that one continues to sort of act from that space of, well, whatever you want, we'll just do that. Or you express an opinion and the other person is now not very happy that you have an opinion now because they're used to you just acquiescing to whatever they wanted. So we have to be in a healthy space throughout the process. And I think that's, really true. When we don't see the value in our own households, in our own things that we own, in the land, in the nature that's around us, in the parks that exist within our circles, it's hard. I think the way we treat those things then is an indicator of how we're treating everything in our life, how we're treating people. When the opportunity shows up to help someone, we may shirk it off because, that would put us out. Or when the opportunity shows up to be in relationship with someone else, we decide that, they're not the kind of not the person we want to be in relationship with because they aren't going to further our agenda, that kind of a thing. And that's basically the kind of attitude that that damages, if you will, damages our earth and our land, is that this is not helpful to my agenda. Therefore, either I don't have to do it, I don't have to be careful about what trash gets thrown in the lake because I'm not going to be back here, so who cares? Or some other kind of thinking pattern which just creates the situation where we don't honor what nature really is. So I am just thinking as we go through and think about this, that I would invite us all to look at Indigenous Peoples Day and think about the reality of how this United States was a vast land of many peoples living in many different areas. And they were hunting animals that grazed across the land, and they were growing things in different places, and they were doing life, building villages, et cetera, et cetera. And those that first showed up here, whether it was the Spanish coming up here in New Mexico, or it was the the English coming over as the Pilgrims did, there was a disregard for what was discovered, a disregard that this was something of value, and the people here were of value. It makes me think of a story I remember, and that was at one point in the early days of California. There was word that somebody had a giant sequoia tree that was, I don't remember how many feet around, but 100+ feet around in circumference, etc. And people didn't believe it. I think they literally cut down one of those giant sequoias and cut it into some pieces that they could haul on a train or a truck to bring it to different parts of the country to show people that this existed. But my thought around that is that people actually didn't believe it existed because I think there were so many things that people did that were designed just to get people to give money or to fool people. We had a cure for this, and if you buy it, you'll feel better. And if you go to California, you'll see these giant trees, and you should really go. And so things were designed to get people to be fooled for the sake of the goal of whoever was doing the fooling. Were they able to sell something that wasn't really of any value? Were they able to get people to give money for no apparent reason? And that attitude, that belief system was so ingrained that when they found this incredible wonder of nature, people went, no, that's not real. Somebody made that up. Somebody made that up, and they're trying to fool me. And with that attitude, we end up damaging and not honoring our actual land, this land that's mine and yours and everyone else's, and all of the creatures and plants and everything that lives upon it. So I'm going to just say that for this week, as you move forward, I'm going to invite you and me to think about what is it that we could, actually, let's change that. I'm going to invite us to think about noticing where we walk with dishonor, if you will, of land, of environment, of other people, any of that. Where do we disregard the needs, the wants, the desires of Mother Earth or of other people? And start with noticing. Just notice. And from there, we can start to think about, oh, could I do it differently? How would it look? What could I do instead? Can I make a small shift that will have an impact here? So that is the charge for each of you. I am trusting that next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, that my lovely wife will be back with us. I am grateful for all of you joining us today. Any of you who will join us later online and watch the show recorded, thank you so much for doing so. Please feel free to write in a comment, even if you're watching later. We are truly grateful to each of you, and we are honored to be a part of this and to offer this little bit of stimulating thought, we hope. But remember, it's all about rockin' the love, and that's about relationship. So all of this is just about relationship. How are we relating? So bless you all. Have a great week. Look forward to seeing you next week. and have a great and wonderful, happy day. And I am looking for my thing to take us out because I am in charge of that today, and I forgot that for a moment. And somewhere it is. Oh, this will work. So thank you so much. Have a great day, and we will see you next time on New Thought Media Network.